My name is Jenitta and this is my testimony. So, a question that I often wonder is, who am I called to be, or what is it that I'm called to do? And as Christians, how are we called to live? It's a question that often comes our way, and I must admit that before knowing God, I was definitely someone who was conflicted by myself. I didn't care much of what I was called to be or to do. Rather, I was much more distracted by the masks I wore to please others, whether it be friends, school or society. I tried to fit into molds that weren't even made for me, and in return, I didn't really know who I was myself. A couple of years ago, it was at this time when I was attending a retreat, and all of these thoughts were constantly invading my head. And during one of those days, I was reminded of a verse in Jeremiah 31, where God spoke to Israel saying, "I love you with an everlasting love. Therefore I continue my faithfulness to you. Again, I will build you, and you shall be built." It was then when I realized that all the masks I was wearing was essentially what was tearing me down from knowing who I was myself and being that person, from not fixating on my downfalls. And it often built fear and anxiousness in me in anything that I did, while being afraid to open myself to God's love. I feared of losing myself. And it was when I heard this verse that I understood that getting closer to Him does not mean that I lose myself. In fact, the closer we get to Him is when we become more ourselves, when we begin to live a life led by the Spirit, and to grow knowing that God's mercy triumphs over our downfalls. Now, to answer the question, what am I called to be? Or what are we called to do? So much. But we can begin by giving ourselves willingly, to taking each other's burdens willingly, to opening our hearts to know His love, because it's when we love like God that we become more ourselves.